Right, we are on to week 4 of this learning to code vlog. Sadly, this week I don't have loads to update. I had a really hectic week at work last week, late finishes, so just finding the time to get even like half an hour of coding in the evening became super difficult. I didn't do nothing. I did manage to get stuck into some Flexbox and had a very frustrating problem, which I'm going to talk and show more about later on in this video. But yeah, it was just one of those weeks and it's going to happen. But I'm glad I managed to, at the very least, overcome the main problem that I was experiencing. In hindsight, if you would have seen me in the last video, I gave myself a very ambitious goal of finishing the Flexbox front-end mentor project that I was working on, applying that to my own project website that I've been sort of working on in the background, and then completing the Scrimba CSS grid module, and then doing the front-end mentor project using focusing on CSS grid, applying a bit of grid to my website, and then researching what I should do in terms of learning the basics of raw JavaScript. So I think that was 5 different things I aim to accomplish between last week and this week, and I managed to do 1, but 1 is better than 0. I also didn't get a chance to code this weekend at all because I was hosting my parents, which was obviously lovely, and as much as I would have liked to dedicate some time to getting more stuck into the programming side of things, it was just one of those weeks where other obligations got in the way, and that's just the way it is. But that's enough of the excuses for now. This week's video is going to be slightly different in that I'm actually going to show some of the problems that I was experiencing. So first time trying to do a bit of a screen record and trying to talk through or show the front-end mentor project that I was working on, how I set up. It was basically a Flexbox layout design challenge, and show how I applied what I've learned so far to that, and most importantly, the big frustration I had, this one little problem that I couldn't fix, that despite spending probably a total of 2 to 3 hours on it last week, like moving one little thing, I had to go to generative AI to tell me the answer, but we got there in the end. So I'm going to flip over now to the screen record so I can show you more what I'm talking about. Okay, switching onto the screen recorder mode. So it's the first time I'm doing this, so apologies if this looks shit and a bit touchy or sounds bad, but we're just gonna chuck ourselves in the deep end and hope for the best. I mentioned I've been using Front-End Mentor. I decided to take on this challenge because it mentioned Flexbox, and that was exactly what I wanted to develop my skills in. So I'm not on a premium version, I'm just on the free version, but I decided this would be a good one to download. And within this challenge, you basically just get an image of what it should look like, and you get a style guide, and you get all the assets as well, so the profile pictures, and I don't think you got the stars, but you got the colors and everything like that. But it's quite a good, I don't know, hands-off approach in my opinion, because you kind of just got to look at it and figure it out, and try and create the page as best as you can. So I'll show you the JPEG. So this is the design, desktop.design JPEG. So this is what I had to work off. And the code they give you is just literally the text of this. So what you get is this. So the HTML file opens, there's no head, there's literally nothing, and you open up, and the challenge is to turn that into the JPEG they provided. So as I mentioned, they provide a style guide. This is what the style guide looks like. You've got your colors. I've got a folder full of the pictures and stuff, font size, fonts, all that stuff, and that's about it. That's kind of what you've got to go off there. First part was to add all the necessary elements to the HTML. So obviously start off with the basics with a head, and then started dividing up the different parts of the text, so like a H1, a paragraph. Had to add in stars. That got a little bit complicated. That was just added it in through a span. don't know if that was the right way to do it, but that was just the way that I figured out to do it. It was quite, it doesn't look right because it looks quite text heavy, to be honest. And then split the page into different chunks. So just use divs everywhere. Created a div for the top half of the page and the bottom half of the page. Then created was laying it out with, if we go to the image, so laid out top half and a bottom half, then laid out a top left. This is all within a div. Then put my heading one and the paragraph underneath there. Then a div for each of these star-based reviews, and then at the bottom, obviously, create the div for um, each customer review. Split the customer review into two divs. Put this as a Flexbox so it's sat next to each other, and then obviously like moving these starred reviews so they aligned properly, and same with the customer based reviews down here. So in essence, just put divs absolutely everywhere to sort of structure the layout. Then went about styling it using the styling guide, and I was pretty pleased with the results. And it did take a bit of time, a bit of back and forth, but generally speaking, I was making good progress. The first half, this top half of the page, I thought went really well. I set the height of the top half to 50%. I'd found, it was a bit finicky getting the stars on and making sure that there was enough. I had a bit of an issue with the spacing between the stars and the text, and then aligning it properly. But I mean, generally speaking, I thought I was feeling quite confident. I was feeling quite good at that stage. As you can see, I've put the borders around the areas. I saw that in one of the YouTube videos just to help me like visually see what elements I was working with. The second half was when I ran into problems, and the to skip all a long bit basically and just go straight to the problem that I had. The text and everything, the design of these customer-based reviews was fine. What I couldn't for the life of me figure out is I set the HTML to 100% or 100 VH, and then I split these two to 50%, 50%. Now, the bottom half, despite setting it to 50%, will just wrap around the reviews. And what I really wanted it to do was to follow the HTML, so follow the red line. So there'd be a bunch of white space underneath here. I could then align items. So this one would be in the center, and this would be flex send, so it would follow the design. That honestly, just that problem alone, took me like pretty much all of last week, and I just couldn't. And the closest I got, or the only sort of progress I really made through trial and error, and I still didn't manage to fix the problem, was this, where it did take up the whole page, but now the reviews stretched all the way to the bottom. So it was a very frustrating week, and I mean, I don't know, but I guess that's an insight into what like professional coding is. And obviously, this is a very basic problem, but banging your head against the wall and hoping that you fix a problem. And eventually, I actually tried to go chat GPT, and they gave me some possible solutions, and nothing was working. I was getting increasingly frustrated. Then I found Claude, and Claude it popped up on my Instagram from a guy that I thought I've mentioned him before, Andrew Code Smith. As like you mentioned that this is really good for like specific coding challenges. So I think I copied in my code. I said it's my HTML height of 100 viewpoint units or height units. The top half 100%, bottom half 100%. Why is it not using up the available space? I went a bit back and forth. I sort of showed Claude more of my code, and eventually I figured out that it was to do with, I can't actually remember now, the align item. So it's set to stretch by default, and I had to change that to flex start. And then once through a bit of back and forth with Claude, I managed to make those changes. Finally, the text started to wrap, and there started to be that white space underneath that I wanted. And then I finally achieved this. So I don't know if this is helpful or not, but this is how I broke up the page. So you can see there, that was like the top left. How I did that, and finally I managed to get to the bottom of it and managed to find how to do that white space. I hope that gave you some insight into how I'm applying my learnings and the sort of challenges I'm undertaking and how I'm trying to progress. I set up this channel and started recording these videos for two main reasons. One is to keep myself accountable. It's Monday night, I'm quite tired, I just want to go to bed, and I really didn't want to record this video, but because I'm on a roll now, this is vlog 4, I've sort of forced to lock myself in the room and do this quickly. The second to that, I'm hoping that if people who are ahead of me on this journey, or even if people who are working as software engineers and can see some really obvious mistakes that I'm making when I'm applying my learnings, or just generally, or anything that I'm doing, or even if like I should just go straight to JavaScript now and not worry about everything else, like I'm open ears to feedback and constructive criticism, because that will really obviously help me develop. Thank you again for watching. Please comment if there is anything you'd like to point out that could help me, and I'll see you on the next video.